How do we feel safe in the world? Are we feeling safe in our bodies? As we're working with this awareness of all of the different elements, one of the things that really comes into mind is, do we trust other people? What is our relationship with other people, and how do we feel about that? How do we feel about being around other people? Do we feel safe enough to be around other people? What's our situation with that? Learning to trust again. When we're talking about relational healing, we heal in relationships. We're also wounded in relationships. So it makes sense that we have a lot of healing to do in our own personal body, our own mind, the way we think. We also need to become connected with other people as well. So trauma can create these patterns of mistrust and isolation. We don't want to risk being abandoned or rejected. We've just been doing some work on shame as well and on anger, the fight response. So there's a lot of different ways that we relate to each other. And we're never going to feel completely safe. What we're looking at is, how can I feel safer or safe enough? It's our nervous system that really says safe enough or not. And one of the ways the nervous system makes that assessment is the thoughts in our mind. If we were to go down into some catastrophic thinking and go into memories of times we've been rejected, times when people have not been safe enough, then it's going to be more difficult for us to relate to others now. One of the things that we're going to do is work directly with the nervous system, how we're assessing that, but also some practices that help us to become more accurate in our perception of threat and safety. So let's start with that. What is your present moment experience of safety? And bring to mind somebody specific. That often really helps. Who specifically are you thinking about when you're working with this? And there's lots of different people, but it might be someone that's been in your life a long time or maybe somebody newer. So when we're assessing that, our nervous system uses evidence. One of the evidence is how other people have been with us. What is our experience with other people? And then, of course, we bring in our previous experience with this person. If we've had a lot of experience either of that person perhaps being very kind and gentle with us, or we've seen that with other people, we've seen that this is a person who generally feels pretty trustable, then we're going to have a more open heart with that person. We're going to let our guard down. Yeah, I could relax here. It's safe enough for me to take a risk of being who I am, of maybe making a joke, or really engaging. So let's sit with that for a minute. Bring someone to mind. Start with someone who's a little on the safer side and bring to mind some of the experiences that you've had. And if other people come in, you can bring them in too. I can relax with this person. I can breathe. Let yourself notice how your body is working with this one. I feel like I could tell them anything and that they wouldn't judge me. We're really lucky when we have friends like that. Or maybe that's family. Let that come to your heart, come into your mind. What's your evidence that you can trust this person? What are your past experiences? As we're working with that, notice as well, what are the sensations in your body? Did you notice, oh, when I started thinking about that person, my shoulders relaxed. I started breathing a little bit easier. We could take some deeper breaths as well. So, this is our experience with some people. We feel safe enough with them to be who we are. And that's wonderful. So, now let's bring up somebody who doesn't feel quite as safe for us. And what is the evidence now? How are you reading the situation? It could be that you have direct experience with this person. They've been harmful in some way, or when you've taken a risk and shared something, they've been scornful. Bring that up for a moment. And as you're doing that, remember that you're here. We're doing a practice. You might hold your own hands. this gets kind of intense, you could look around, you could distract yourself from it. As we're kind of easing into this, pick someone who you feel maybe uneasy around, or maybe you've had some experience, you kind of shut down a little, or you get a bit into a fight response. And then if you think about sharing something vulnerable with them, what's your impulse around that? It feels very different from someone who you feel safer with. What are the thoughts? What would happen? What is your mind predicting might happen? And sometimes our predictions can be wrong. Often we have a felt sense of this, and some of it's based on actual experience. But would I be rejected somehow? Even if you're not really thinking about being all that open or authentic, just being around some people. Sometimes at work and in families, we don't have a lot of choice, or maybe it's somebody in your social circle who you like the other people, but this person makes you uneasy. So, will they include me? Will I be shunned? Sometimes we shun people socially just by ignoring them or looking away or not including them in conversation. What's coming up for you around that? This person who doesn't feel as safe for you. And some people we can't trust because they gossip. We've heard them gossip about other people, or maybe they've said stuff about us. We've shared something and they've broken our trust. That's certainly one of the ways that we would be more cautious if that was happening. So, as you let that in, notice what are the sensations and energies in your body. There's a lot of ways that we can be hurt. People will use what you shared with them, they'll make fun of you in front of others, they break our trust. And notice what that feels like. Maybe just take a few deep breaths, look around. Those experiences can be devastating, and some of them still have some deep hurt. If something goes wrong like that, so I've taken this risk and something's happened that's harmful, how am I going to survive that? Notice what your mind brings in. It might be something helpful, like, well, I have a lot of other friends. I could turn to one of them. I could say, this is what's going on. I'm really upset. We could hug our dog or go for a walk, or we could have a conversation with that person. What are you going to do next if something does go wrong? And then let yourself walk through that in your mind. This is where we can bring a lot of history. Maybe in the past we never stood up for ourselves, it didn't feel safe. And maybe we are going to this time. That's not acceptable, what you just said. Or I told you that in confidence. It's not okay for you to spread that around. I've lost respect for you because you gossiped about me. Let's give that a minute. How might you approach healing this within yourself? Standing up for yourself, being there for yourself, protecting yourself, reaching out for support from others who are safe enough. Feel that in your body. I'm not trapped. I have some different choices, including moving away from that person, saying something. We could ask for other people to stand up for us. I can assess the situation. I don't have to shame myself for my choice. A lot of these are nervous system responses. It's not like we decide exactly. So we're just exploring this. Our nervous system uses evidence. And when we remember evidence of really kind, lovely connection, we feel different. Heart's warm, our muscles relax, we breathe a bit easier. People are difficult, and yet we need them. So here we are, adulting. This inquiry around feeling safe enough. What I've observed, some people have always felt safer when they're with others. And partly it might be because they've had really good experiences. When they were a child, they had parents who were connected or other adults, or maybe they had really good friends, or maybe it was a parent of one of their friends, or it was a special teacher. People who have that experience develop the neural networks, but also the confidence that if I reach out, I'm going to be met with kindness, that it's worth it to me to reach out. And then there are some people who might not feel quite that confident. There might be more anxiety there, but it's like I feel safer if I'm around somebody. I feel that at least there's a possibility I could be protected. I expect to enjoy this. So when you think about getting together with other people, you expect it will be good. It will be a positive outcome. And then there's other people who didn't have that experience as a child and feel safer alone. If a lot of the trauma has been relational from other people and you didn't have a source of connection that was reliable as you were going through that trauma, then you might have just turned to other things. We imprint on things, and we might imprint on food or alcohol or video games or something like that instead of on other people. And that's just because we didn't have reliable people around. It's not that we're doing something wrong, but that might be a case where you feel safer alone. And even though we recognize that it's a bit lonely, it's not as juicy and alive as when we're around other people, it's a lot safer. When I feel safer alone, just sit with that for a bit. I feel safer alone. How does that resonate for you? I acknowledge I feel more lonely. I'm not as alive. Life isn't as exciting or juicy, but my window of tolerance is very narrow. I really can't tolerate it when things aren't pretty predictable, pretty safe in relationship. Someone's having a bad day, I really take it to heart. I'm not good at handling that. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Again, this is based on our experience. Notice how you're feeling in your body. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be wanting to be alone, just as a general trend. And check in with your willingness. Are you willing to try connecting? And it's so important to be kind with ourselves. We have a culture that says there's something wrong with you if you're alone. And if you don't feel safe with other people, there's something wrong with you. And that's not true. There's a lot of nuance here. And even if there's a feeling of, I would really prefer to be around other people more, but this is how I seem to be wired. I might work on that. I might be willing to, but I'm not going to be jumping out into a lot of connection. It just doesn't feel right. And that's okay. I could be kind and patient with myself. So now let's work with the other component of this of people who feel less safe when they're alone. They might even be very anxious when they're alone. I feel more vulnerable, more anxious when I'm alone. I really want other people around me. And my window of tolerance is pretty open. If somebody's having a bad day, I'll move on to somebody else. I might not even notice. I want to be around other people. That's where I get my strength. And as we're working with this, there's so many different ways that we connect. So connecting online, connecting in situations like this is helpful. It's real. There's a real connection here. And it can feel a lot safer than being in person with someone who might be very volatile. Our mammal bodies are safer at a distance than they are when we're in the room with somebody. And we also don't get quite the same comfort and connection. There's no right or wrong answer. Let's just look at this a little bit more, feel into your body. If you feel safer with others or if you feel more anxious when you're alone, allow yourself to recognize that. Life isn't a Disney movie where everything always works out. and where there always is one answer. Fall in love, everything's great. It's not like that. We can have a lot of nuance and complexity in our relationships, and we could honor this is what my nervous system's telling me. I'm willing to kind of move out towards other people and connect in ways that feel safe. And there's some things that I don't want to push myself to do. That's fine. And then, whatever our situation is there, whether we feel safer alone or safer with other people, could we just take a moment to feel some compassion for ourselves? Here we are in these situations. We've arrived here because of our experience in life. Much of it was not ideal or very harmful. And here we are. Take a few breaths, maybe put your hands on your heart. There's actually nothing wrong with me. I could allow some kindness here. One of the effects of trauma is that we disconnect from ourselves, from other people, and there's a price that we pay for that, but it keeps us safer. And then here we are. Obviously, all of us are wanting to do something that's healing in this area. And here we are doing this together. Let's think about the path behind us that's led us to now. We've just been working with that. And how do you envision this going forward? How do you experience safe enough right now? There's nothing wrong with me. We could really work with that. Let that settle in so we know it in our bones. This is how I feel. This is my experience. What do I want to work with? So, some things we're going to be happy enough about. It's like, well, I'm not an extrovert. I really like to be alone a lot, and I don't see that changing. Or, I'm really lonely. I'm really missing. Perhaps you've had a loss in family or friend or something's gone on. And you're like, I know I can't replace the person, but I need more social contact. What I'd like to open into more is maybe imagining that, visualizing that, maybe thinking of some safe enough places, maybe joining a choir or joining something at the library, or there's laughter yoga here at the library I was thinking about. So, how could we bring more joy and connection in a safe enough way that we're not going to go, oh, I can't do that? So, let's sit with that for a moment. Try it out in your mind. What does it feel like when you kind of land on one thing? So, okay, I'm going to join a choir. How does that roll out in your mind? What do you expect to go wrong? To go well? It might be to visit somebody, but to do it in a way that works for our nervous system. Honoring this is what my nervous system is very likely to be experiencing, and how can I support myself? And then for the last couple minutes, let's bring that into our heart, honor our own feelings. This is how I feel, and there's nothing wrong with me. I have every right to set the tone for my life. Who I invite in, how often, all of those different things. Some of the situations we're in, we can do something. We can just be honest and say, that sounds like it would be fun, but it would be fun for me for an hour, and I'm not going to spend a weekend doing that. But how could we just really bring ourselves into our own heart? And as we're connected within, that's how we have the strength and the curiosity and the interest to go and connect with others. Take that moment. We could allow other people to be who they are. We could allow ourselves to be who we are. There's a lot of freedom in that. Let yourself have the experience you're having. And as you move through the day and the weeks ahead, to notice, how am I working with this? Am I being pushy with myself? Am I offering myself some space, some respect? And can I keep myself in my heart?